Support for this podcast and the following messages comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, proud to support the many Texas businesses who make safety their number one priority in the workplace. More information about safety-focused workers' comp available at WorksafeTexas.com.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. Former FBI Director James Comey is reacting to a Justice Department report that faults him for insubordination and bad judgment in the Hillary Clinton email investigation. He says he disagrees with some of the report's conclusions but respects the work. The current FBI Director is Christopher Wray.
Nothing in this report impugns the integrity of our workforce as a whole or the FBI as an institution.
The FBI Director promising change. Attorney General Jeff Sessions pushing back against those who are slamming the policy that separates children from parents trying to enter the U.S. illegally.
If you violate the law, you subject yourself to prosecution.
President Trump's soon-to-be-announced plan to heavily tax tens of billions of dollars worth of products made in China will lead to higher prices on some items, say experts, like TVs. AT&T's takeover of Time Warner is a done deal. I'm Rita Foley.
Hey, it's Steve Harvey here for the Illinois Broadcasters Association, and in a recent survey, the Illinois Emergency Management Agency was asked to name the top 5 items that every Illinois family needs to have in their home's emergency disaster kit. Check out these answers. Water, can't live without it. Number 2, non-perishable food. Well, after all, a man gotta eat, right? Number 3, weather radio, and make sure you got fresh batteries too. Number 4, flashlight. Even more reason to have fresh batteries on hand. Number 5, first aid kit. Look, there's no reason to feud over what items to put in your family's emergency disaster kit. Get the answers and more at ready.illinois.gov. That's ready.illinois.gov.
Sponsored by the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, aired in cooperation with the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
Commodity prices. What a tough week we have had, and a pretty tough stretch through June so far, for that matter. But good things to talk about. Rita was up in Galena yesterday. Illinois Beef Summer Conference is taking place, including today. They're going to do some farm and industry tours. Yesterday, she had a chance to visit with the re-elected IBA president, Joni Buchert, in McDonough County. We'll share that conversation in just a couple of minutes. And then also, Rita talked to Marla Behrens earlier in the week at Midwest Area. I took the liberty of using that for this week's 4F's report. There will be several breakfasts around the state along with June Dairy Month, where you could be on the farm and get a great breakfast in different parts of the state, and in some cases, awfully cheap breakfasts, too. So we'll get into that. Plus, history in Springfield yesterday, the 90th FFA convention in Illinois, and for the first time elected an all-female state officer team. We'll hear from the president and vice president a little bit later in the program. Stay tuned. This is RFD, Illinois.
Corn. Thanks to Illinois corn farmers, you can see it just about everywhere here in the land of Lincoln. What you may not know is the unexpected places you can find corn, like your gas tank. 97% of all fuel sold in the U.S. is a 10% ethanol blend. And here in Illinois, we're a top producer of ethanol. Not only does it drive your car, it drives our economy. Be sure to proudly choose an ethanol blend at the pump the next time you fill up. Illinois runs on homegrown corn and Illinois-made ethanol. Visit ilcorn.org to find out more. A message from Illinois corn farmers and their checkoff.
RFD Radio Network's Jim Taylor connects rural routes for you. You can trust Jim every morning for your overnight markets. He gets up early to help keep farmers on top of their game. Here's a bit about his rural routes.
I have the opportunity to cover something different every day and provide listeners with up-to-date markets, news they need to do their job and be successful, from legislative issues to crop updates and weather, of course.
Be it routes or routes, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Welcome back to RFD Illinois. We're covering the Illinois Beef Association Summer Conference in Galena this year. Farm Week's Dan Grant and I have had a blast covering the news of the IBA and seeing a re-election of the President Joni Buchert today at the annual meeting. And Joni, your peers are here. This industry has given you a nod for another year of leadership.
Yes, they have, and I appreciate the support of these folks. I have just enjoyed tremendously the opportunity to serve them, so I look forward to another year of service.
Remind us about your farm and a little bit about what's been going on there this year.
I am a cow-calf producer. My son and I are managing about 180 head of cattle. When I'm gone traveling for IBA, he's at home kind of a one-man show, so it keeps us really, really busy. We have Key Angus cattle, and then we manage a group of cattle for another producer doing some embryo work, breeding work, and custom grazing and calving, so we keep busy.
Why leadership? Why did you want to serve this organization?
You know, when I was first approached for the nomination of it, I questioned whether I was the right person for the job, but as I have served as vice president of the association and watched the inner workings, it's truly about serving people and making certain that we promote our industry, that we legislatively protect our industry, and that we do a lot of good consumer work and check-off promotion so that folks know that we're producing a high-quality, safe product and that is very nutritious.
And sharing that passion for cattle with these members, a huge benefit.
To be out there doing what they do each and every day, understanding how the market affects these folks, understanding how the weather affects them, I'm feeling their pain too. So it helps me to go out and serve them better each day by knowing exactly what they're going through as well.
A good turnout here in Galena, but for the rest of the membership that couldn't make it, what is your message to them for 2018 and for the year ahead?
Engagement. We are looking to have our members engaged. We need all the boots on the ground. We need them to be working legislatively with people that they've built relationships with. They have personal relationships with folks who will make those decisions and cast those votes, and we need them engaged and working for the industry. And to have our youth engaged and build a really strong foundation. In this day and age, it's difficult for young people to get back to the farm, and so we want to really support them and help make that possible. So that'll be a strong focus. And then consumer, of course, looking to, build the trust with the consumer so that they put a face and a name to their producers and the product, and that they have a good understanding that we're doing things right and the product is high quality and very safe and very nutritious.
Just a couple minutes here, but you're awarding some pretty phenomenal people some awards tonight. Talk a little bit about that.
We're always looking for folks that set themselves apart, whether it's for environmental stewardship, whether it's for a beef backer or a family award for, production in beef. And that can be years of beef production, or that can be somebody new in the industry that's just doing phenomenal things. So it's exciting for us to be able to look at those folks and reward them and highlight them, what they're doing. And it also shares a vision for other people and helps people aspire to do better, be better, and really promote what they do, tell their story.
You also you talk a little bit about the staff that represents them in Springfield. Top notch from start to finish.
We absolutely have a phenomenal staff. Jill Johnson is our executive vice president. Jill has been with us for 5 years. This year was hired as our executive vice president, doing phenomenal things for this organization. Very progressive, very well spoken. She lacks any fear. She is willing to go out and do what needs to be done. She is just tenacious. And then Stacy Lorenz is handling our membership and outreach, and she has made great strides for us this year. And then our summer interns, Carly Travis and Cody Schliff, and they are phenomenal young ladies and are helping with our communications department and our outreach and events. So we're very blessed to have them.
You also said, and just quickly, for folks to contact you if you have questions. You're a very busy lady, but reach out.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for, is to serve these folks and to really represent them. So if there are problems or questions, I welcome them reaching out, whether it's through the Illinois Beef Association office, through my email, or feel free to give me a phone call, and I'll get back to them as quickly as I can.
That's your president of the Illinois Beef Association, Joni Bucher. DeLoss will be back with more on RFD Illinois.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Kay Shipman connects rural routes for you. For 3 decades, Kay has delivered important news. She covers everything from legislative issues to the latest in soil and water conservation. Here's a bit about her rural roots.
I love covering so many aspects of agriculture and providing readers with the facts they need to make better decisions. I also get to work with farmers and meet new people along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com and Farm Week keep you connected.
All Ag.
All Illinois.
All Now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All Ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
This is your RFD Radio Network 4F's report. Fuel, fertilizer, feed, and food. All sources of essential energy. Here's DeLaw Jonke.
Talking food today, dairy foods to be specific. Along with June Dairy Month, there's some great opportunities this weekend to have breakfast on the farm. Earlier this week, Marla Behrens at Midwest Dairy visited with Rita about several opportunities for a great meal and great experience with Illinois farmers.
We start out way up in that tip, the Joe Davies County. They have a Beyond the Barn, and Beyond the Barn is going to be at the Matt Burning Farm, and his mom Ellen and Dad have been working so hard up there for a long time, so you can stop there. That's running from 10 to 4, and then, of course, there's 2 other farms in the Joe Davies area that they can actually go to as well. I'm sure they'll get some milk and cheese samples up there, and they'll learn more about the dairy industry. You can also go to the Stevenson Ag Breakfast, and at the Stevenson Ag Breakfast, there is a paid charge, but I got to tip my hat to those folks. They get about 1,500 to 2,000 people up there, and they serve all homemade sour cream coffee cakes. Do you know how many coffee cakes that is, Rita? I don't either, but it's a lot of sour cream. They also serve beef bacon, which is kind of unusual. I never had that until I was up at that particular breakfast. And they have a petting zoo. They have some cows out there and that to see. So it is very nice to be able to take in that Stevenson breakfast. You don't have to have a ticket. You can just buy them right there at the door.
Marla Behrens at Midwest Dairy, who says if you go to the Hildebrands in South Beloit on Saturday, you'll see something no one else in the state will see that day.
That is a fantastic operation. You're going to see a carousel milker, as far as I know. That's the only one that I've found in the state of Illinois. We were supposed to have one other one, and that one didn't transpire, so this is a small one. It's a 40-head carousel where the cows walk on, and then as they rotate around very slowly, then they back off, and then they know that they'll be able to go and get their feed. But it's a really beautiful, brand new operation, and they're milking about 800 cows 3 times a day. So one more, and that is a farmer's share breakfast, and that's in Livingston County, a little bit closer to the Bloomington area. A lot of folks can go to that. Basically, you know, what you might spend for breakfast, anywhere from, $6 to $10 for breakfast out somewhere, and basically you're only going to get about 10% or 12% of that as the farmer's share. So they ask that you donate $1 for breakfast, and it's a great biscuits and gravy, and, of course, milk and orange juice at the Kilgus Farmstead at Fairbury. And if you go through on Route 24, you'll see that Kilgus sign there. But it's a beautiful dairy operation to see those Jersey cows out there on the field. And you just cannot find a better family than Paul Kilgus and Carmen, and then, of course, all the kids there, and Matt and Jenna and their kids as well. So it's a great operation.
Marla Behrens at Midwest Dairy. Learn all about nutrition, health, farm life, and more at the MidwestDairy.com website. Gas prices from AAA, $2.90 and a half for national averages, up 3 cents from last month and 58 cents from last year. Premiums at $3.45. Diesel at $3.19 is 6 cents more than a month ago and 70 cents more than last year. The 85 nationwide price is $2.44. Illinois regular is $2.99 a gallon. 2 cents more than last month, 65 cents more than last year. Diesel at $3.11, 8 cents more than last month, and 67 cents more than last year. Neighboring states, Missouri $2.65, Iowa $2.78, and Indiana $2.88 a gallon.
That's this week's 4F's report. Tune in next week for all of the latest fuel, fertilizer, feed, and food trends and essential energy information.
Speaking of F's, how about this? History was made yesterday in Springfield at the 90th State FFA Convention, an all-female state officer team. Our Jenna Preston, intern extraordinaire, was down there, had a chance to visit with newly elected president Sophia Horton from Fisher FFA.
I joined FFA. It was rather new at my school at the time. We had just reestablished in 2011 and 2012, but I decided to try it because I knew that I wanted to be a part of a club in high school, but I quickly fell in love with this organization and what I saw that it could do for members, which is why I decided to dedicate myself to leadership and service in this organization.
The new vice president is Eliza Petrie of Rochelle FFA up in northern Illinois.
As a freshman, I came to state convention to do FFA talent. That's really what I was there for, as I just wanted to play music and I wasn't really interested about FFA. And then I remember it was the 5th session. The section presidents walked in with flags and the Illinois song was playing, and I just had this moment where I was almost uplifted and I looked at all those people like, wow, that's so cool and I want to be them. And I kind of had an awe moment, I guess you could say, of what this organization is really all about. And I went back to my chapter and just got more and more involved, and now here I am.
The other 3 state officers, Miriam Hoffman from Earlville as secretary, Taylor Hardkey and Teutopolis as treasurer, and the reporters Shaylee Clinton of Ina, Mount Vernon FFA. An all-female Illinois FFA state officer team. Think about this, 2019 will be the 50th anniversary that women were allowed to be FFA members. It was an all-male organization from the late 20s to the late 60s. We get a report from the State House now. Steve Bridge at our affiliate WFMB.
You're in a good spot right now if you're in that category of looking for work, or maybe you have an existing job and are looking to trade up for a better one. The economy and the job economy continues to improve in Illinois. The Department of Employment Security says this week that for the 5th month in a row, the state's jobless rate fell. Today it stands at 4.3%. Bob Goff with IDES says the state grew more than 8,000 jobs in May. It's a continuation of a good string of job news.
For the first 5 months of the year, jobs are growing faster than they've grown each of the past 2 years. And when you look at the increases in job creation, retention, and investment, I think more of a pro-business climate has certainly helped things along.
Right now, where are the best places to find employment across Illinois?
Largest gains were in education and health services and government and financial activities, and we did have some payroll declines in information services and leisure and hospitality.
The nation's unemployment rate is 3.8%, and across the U.S., more than 200,000 jobs were created last month.
That's Steve Bridge reporting in Springfield, and we'll break now for markets and weather.
With the RFD Ag Market Summary for this Friday morning, I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and wheat all ending Thursday lower. July corn closing at $3.63, down 13. September corn down 12 3/4, $3.72 3/4. And December corn down 12 1/2, $3.84 1/2. July beans closing at $9.27 1/4, down 8 3/4. August beans down 8 1/2, $9.33 1/4. And September beans down 8 1/2, $9.39 3/4. July wheat closing at $5.01 1/2, down 15. September wheat down 15 1/2, $5.17 1/4, and December wheat down 16, $5.40. July bean meal $3.43.20, down $4.50. July bean oil $30.14, that's up 6 cents. And current electronic overnight trading: July corn down 2 1/2, September corn down 2 1/2, December corn down 2 1/4. $3.82 1/4. July beans in the overnight down 14 1/4. August beans down 14 1/4. September beans down 14, $9.25 3/4. July wheat in the overnight down 7. September wheat down 6 3/4. December wheat down 7, $5.33. In the outside markets, August Brent crude oil $75.94, down 80 cents. The August gold contract $13.03.10, down 5.20. This morning. In the livestock market, June lean hogs 81.17, up 17 cents. July lean hogs down 115, 81.62. June live cattle 106.25, down 167. August live cattle down 208, 101.87. August feeder cattle 143.67, down 197. September feeder cattle 144.80, down 187. And the Illinois direct barrels and gilts trading $2 higher on Thursday at 50 to 58. That's the RFD Ag Market Summary for this Friday morning. I'm Jim Taylor with the RFD Radio Network.
Good morning, this is Dan Hicks from Freezotis Weather with the early morning weather update on the RFD radio network for this Friday morning. Daytime highs in the 70s and 80s were common across much of Illinois yesterday, with a few low 90s in some west central and southwestern counties. Temperatures were quite a bit warmer to the west of the state, with some far western and southwestern parts of the Midwest mostly in the 90s, and 90s to low 100s over a large part of the plain states. This warm front moving eastward did produce some showers and thunderstorms over some western and central parts of Illinois yesterday afternoon into last night. A few lingering showers and thunderstorms are possible across the state this morning. No major additional rainfall is expected, and the hotter, more humid conditions will be spreading eastward across the Midwest today into the weekend and on into Monday. Daytime highs will climb into the upper 80s and 90s across a large part of the region. A few spots may reach 100 degrees over the next 3 or 4 days. Best chances for thunderstorms will push into the far northern Midwest during this time, with any rain staying generally to the north of Illinois later today through most of the weekend. As we move into next week, high pressure aloft will start to weaken somewhat and retreat farther into the southern part of the country. This should allow a cool front to start to slowly move southward across the region during the early to mid part of next week. This will gradually start some cooling from north to south across the region, but some 90s are still expected over much of the area on Monday and some southern areas of the Midwest even into Tuesday. Temperatures during the 6 to 10 day time frame will be a bit cooler across most of the Midwest, but will still average above normal at most locations. Increasing rain chances across the area next week into the 6 to 10 day time frame could bring near normal rainfall to a large part of the Midwest, but again, in any given state, rainfall amounts are likely to be quite variable.
Farm, family, food. Those 3 words best describe Illinois Farm Bureau. Farm. For 100 years, Farm Bureau in Illinois has represented and served the men and women who make Illinois one of the top food-producing states. Family. At the heart of rural Illinois are traditional farm families who work together through Illinois Farm Bureau. And food. Farm Bureau families are proud to grow the healthy food they provide their families and yours. Farm, family, food. The heart of Farm Bureau in Illinois.
Crop protection stewardship, it's in your hands. From floods and drought to insects and trade disputes, Illinois farmers face an ever-changing list of challenges. Northern Illinois farmer Tammy Halterman believes you can add weeds to the lengthy list.
We're getting so many noxious weeds that we can't control. Water hemp is getting worse and worse and worse. Mare's tail is, again, another weed that we never used to have a problem with, and now we do.
Halterman and other farmers have some new crop protection tools that contain dicamba to combat weeds in soybeans. If you plan to use the seed and approved crop protection products,
talk to your neighbors. You have to talk and communicate with your neighbors.
Whatever you plant or use, it's always important to let others know before you grow.
We have it. It's in our toolbox. We just need to be careful how we use it and document how we use it.
Crop protection stewardship, it's in your hands. Go online to ilfb.org/steward for more information.
Be it through headlines, microphones, or tweets, Mike Orso connects rural routes for you. Mike has been covering farm and food issues for more than 3 decades. Whether it's print, video, radio, or feeding your online appetite, Mike keeps you in the loop. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I keep our communities, state, and country in mind with everything I do. My job allows me to work toward this mission with farmers and other rural Illinoisans.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
That'll do it for RFD Illinois. We always salute a community. We have to say hi to Fisher in Champaign County, right along 136. We just mentioned Sophia Horton of Fisher is the new FFA state president. We salute that community, and you can bet Sophia will soon have her name on the sign as you come into town. Population 1,881. We say hello. For Jim Taylor, for Rita Frazier, I'm DeLoss Yonke. Have a great and safe Father's Day weekend.
Thank you for joining us here on the RFD Radio Network.
Hey, a great way to reach farmers, reach those in agriculture, is through local radio. In fact, Rita, from the National Association of Farm Broadcasting, they have research that shows that farmers listen, 87% say they listen 3+ days a week, 74% say they listen 4+ days per week. We're proud to be able to provide a service for stations all over the state that touch farmers at a very direct level.
Indeed, and local radio is still the best way to stay connected to your local community.
Be sure to listen to this station throughout the week.
They were outnumbered, out-equipped. They had no chance of winning, but they had one huge advantage: General George Washington.
The fate of unborn millions will now depend, under God, on the courage and conduct of this army. We have to resolve to conquer or die.
Just as the leadership of one man helped form a nation, today leadership can transform the world. Leadership is in you. Now pass it on from passiton.com.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. President Trump is reportedly set to impose tariffs of between $35 billion and $40 billion on Chinese goods, Beijing vowing to retaliate against any such move. One of the more shocking revelations in the newly released Justice Department Inspector General's report on the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Correspondent Molly Hines says we've learned of another series of anti-Trump messages exchanged by two senior FBI officials.
One of the more explosive findings is a new text message from FBI investigator Peter Strzok answering a question from a department lawyer asking if Donald Trump will be elected. Strzok responds, quote, "We'll stop it." While the Inspector General found such discussions troubling, he concludes there's no evidence the FBI's conclusions were affected by bias or other considerations.
There's also criticism of then FBI Director James Comey saying he was insubordinate in his handling of the Clinton email investigation. In light of this, current FBI Director Christopher Wray is promising change.
Number one, the importance of trying to make sure that we avoid even the appearance of bias in all of our work, that objectivity and the appearance of objectivity matters.
Some FBI employees were clearly dismayed at Mr. Trump's election win. One Bureau employee quoted in the report as referring to Trump backers as poor and lazy. Also at SRNnews.com, former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort due back in court today on witness tampering allegations. Prosecutors want the judge to withdraw his bail, sending him to jail. He's due to stand trial later this year in a series of charges including tax evasion and money laundering. Manafort has denied any wrongdoing. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures are sharply lower. Dow futures down 146, S&P futures off 11 points. This is SRN News. Pornography is growing by leaps and bounds.
A new report released by the Family Research Council reveals about 1/3 of all data transferred across the internet every day is pornography. Porn sites now get more visitors than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter combined. The FRC report also indicates that the pornography industry is one of the fastest growing in the world, with a valuation of nearly $100 billion, $10 billion of it right here in the U.S. Michael Harrington, SRN News.
Christians in India are worried about the looming 2019 general election. International Christian Concern says the likelihood of a sweeping victory by the ruling BJP party will essentially legitimize persecution. Since radical Hindus first came to power in 2014, violence against Christians in India has spiked. Supporters of the BJP say that they want to cleanse India of Christianity, leaving it an entirely Hindu country. SRN News. Tax preparer H&R Block says it's going to close 400 offices, a result of the tax changes on the federal level.
The new tax laws will simplify the average American's return. That means more do-it-yourselfers will be turning to software, things like TurboTax. H&R Block had just reported a 4% increase in revenue and a 2.5% jump in its U.S. client base in 2018. But now the company says it expects revenue to decline by 3% next year. Shares declined 18% on Wednesday. Bob Agnew reporting.
McDonald's planning to switch to paper straws at all of its locations in the UK and Ireland and test an alternative to plastic ones in some of its U.S. locations later this year. The burger chain and other fast food companies are facing increasing pressure from customers and environmental activists to stop using the plastic straws. More details at srnnews.com.
The future is now. And welcome to the SVK Crypto Podcast. 15 minutes of crypto value.
My name's Charles Story. I will be your host for the next 15 minutes. We're coming live from the city of London, Shoreditch. So let's get down to business. Today's show is going to have a slightly different format. We're going to be talking about when the EOS mainnet is going to be activated and what is needed for the activation to occur. So with me, I have Oliver Mayer, our in-house blockchain analyst. Oliver, how's it going?
It's going great, Charles. Thanks, first of all, for having me on the show. I love what you're doing with the podcast. I think the new format's working really, really well, and it's a lot more engaging and relevant for our audience. So great job on that front. Myself, personally, I've been working on a lot of EOS-related projects today. Obviously, with the mainnet voting now ongoing, it's a hot topic amongst the community. And in today's show, I think we should really delve into some of the topics that have been talked about a lot, in at least our Telegram channel, as well as others, which is related to block producer incentives, which block producers are going to be maybe the top 21, and also how and when is this mainnet launch going to occur.
So at the minute, Oliver, the state of affairs, would you be so kind to break it down? From my understanding, you have to hear me out, and from my knowledge on this, is that for this to be launched, it's not going through a central point of authority. It's not going to be a flick of a switch, for example. The community are launching the EOS mainnet. Now, for that to occur, voting has to happen, if I'm correct. So would you be so kind to elaborate on the voting and where we are now with the voting?
Yeah, so you're 100% correct. Block 1 are not going to be launching the EOS mainnet. So the EOS mainnet launch is going to be down to the community to launch the first chain. And so 21 producers have come together, at least, to form the first chain. They've booted up the blockchain, and now we're in a situation where there's a lot more than 21 block producers. So how do we decide on which 21 are going to be the first 21 to start this blockchain, right? So to make it simple, EOS has 1 billion tokens. They need 15% of those tokens to be staked on this chain for it to become active. So currently, the only transactions on this blockchain are voting transactions. Any other transactions have been disabled until we get 150 million votes. And to give you an idea, we're currently at 111 EOS votes.
I'm with you. So we're looking for 150 million votes, about 111 at the minute. Got that. So there's 21, you call them producers, block producers. So would you be so kind to elaborate on what a block producer does and their role within the community itself and their role within the activation of the mainnet?
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. So there's one block producer called the appointed block producer who starts the blockchain, right? And then these 21 block producers, their job is to validate all the transactions coming onto the network and to make sure that there's consensus on the network, and just to make sure that there's no bad actors and to keep the network running, as transactions and blocks are propagated. So the incentive structure for block producers is almost like, why do you want to be one of these 21? Well, EOS has a built-in 5% annual inflation, of which 1% of that will be given to block producers. And it's not just the 21 block producers who actually create blocks who get paid. In fact, 121 of these producers get paid. So how it breaks down is like this. The 21 block producers get paid on two fronts. They get paid firstly for creating blocks, and they get paid based on the number of votes they've received from the community. Outside of this 21, the other 100 block producers, they don't create any blocks, right? So they only get paid for the number of votes they've received from the community. And EOS has done this because if you imagine that the other 100 block producers aren't getting paid, if one of these 21 block producers drop out, they need someone to replace them, and the block producer that replaces them they need to have sufficient capital to make sure they've got the right computational resources to ensure that the network still produces at a high, still runs at a high performance.
That's great. And if you look at the overall block producers themselves, I believe there's around 298 at present. So you're referring to the 21, but the 21 aren't actually confirmed as of yet. So do you want to explain what's going on there? I know there's a lot of moving around on the leaderboard, which you religiously follow on a day-to-day basis. Would you be so kind to let the listeners know how does someone get into the 21 in the 21 zone for a block producer, and how that really works?
Right, so it's all totally community driven. So anyone who holds an EOS token can vote on any one of these 298 block producers. So really it comes down to, what are these block producers offering the community in terms of, are they providing more exposure to projects? Are they incubating projects? Are they putting on hackathons or creating facilities for people to learn more about EOS? What are they doing to benefit the EOS ecosystem as a whole? So really, that's aside from doing their block producing duties. What are they doing to help the community? And this really is dictating who's in the top 21. So we've seen that the voting has been quite slow. I think that a lot of people thought that the mainnet was going to be just launched and live within a few days. But I think it's important to remember that not many people have actually had to use the tokens that they hold in their wallets for any kind of utility. Usually you buy a token and you hold it, and you're not required to do anything. And now EOS is actually requiring you to vote on which producers you want to sustain the network. And so there's that factor, and then there's the other factor that a lot of EOS tokens are held on exchanges, and so these exchanges have locked those tokens, and that has stopped people from being able to use them to vote.
Whoa. So just to elaborate on what you're saying there, that and I'm kind of trying to play like the other side to this, just so the listeners get the best experience and they can understand the most. So a lot of people aren't voting on EOS, are not using the EOS tokens to vote. And I know that because people come up to us every single day asking us when the mainnet's going to be live, and we ask them if they vote, and they say no. It's like we know that firsthand. So the point you're making there is that exchanges who hold people's EOS tokens, and at the minute they're locked in there. So if Binance, I know you can't deposit or withdraw your EOS tokens, and what's happening, and these exchanges are holding large amounts of tokens, are then going to use the tokens to vote for themselves as block producers. And I'm kind of hinting at Bitfinex here, or how do you foresee that going down? Because I know we speak to the Bitfinex guys a lot, and I know that you're very up to speed with that process.
Sure. So at the moment, exchanges like Binance, they aren't looking to use their their clients' tokens to vote. They're actually just waiting for one chain to be established as the active chain. So once 150 million votes has been reached, Binance will then start considering unlocking those tokens, because they understand that one chain is the main EOS chain. So they're not in the picture for voting. However, Bitfinex is doing something slightly different. Bitfinex have had a vote with their clients, and they have about 73 million EOS tokens at Bitfinex, right? And so they're looking for 11 million votes from their clients to allow them to basically stake their clients' tokens on the top 30 block producers. So I think they've almost reached the 15% threshold they need. So once they reach that 15%, Bitfinex will take their clients' tokens and they'll vote on the top 30 in an equal proportion in order to get this chain active, because they've seen how slow the voting process has been up to this point.
And I mean, one of the things we've kind of missed here is, why would someone vote for a block producer? Like, as a community member who holds some EOS tokens, like, why would I care about, like, not if I vote for a block producer, because obviously you want to get the mainnet live and you want the mainnet to work and you want it to all function correctly, but why would I choose, let's say, EOS Authority, who are a London-based block producer, we know the guys there, or EOS 42, another London-based block producer? Why would I choose EOS 42 over EOS Authority? What's going to help my decision process within that, and what's to incentivize myself as a community member to vote for them?
So obviously there's a few points there. I mean, the first one is obviously geographic location. If you're based in London, then you've probably been to a few of the EOS meetups where a lot of the London-based block producers are at, and you've met with them, you've got a relationship with them, then you'll feel incentivized to vote. Beyond that, it's all about what kind of hardware are they bringing. So the better hardware they can provide, the faster they'll be able to run the mainnet, and the more scope they'll be able to kind of increase the performance, right? So, I mean, I'm talking about things like, have they got in their own in-house servers, or are they using like a Google Cloud or a Microsoft Azure setup? And then beyond that, it's even more like, what kind of things are they doing for the community? Are they creating opportunities to incubate programs? Are they going to put on events for the community? You know, because it's very important that people kind of read into the mandates of each of these block producers, because ultimately these will be the guys who will maintain the validity of the blockchain. So it's, you know, the whole value of EOS is really dependent on there being no malicious actors and making sure that everything runs smoothly and as well as possible.
That makes perfect sense. Incentivize the community. I know a lot of different block producers out there have different strategies on how to do that. I know some are holding, as you mentioned, free EOS community events. I think it's important that you draw the line between the two, because I think the EOS name and the logo is not copyrighted or trademarked, so everyone kind of uses that and kind of incorporates their own name and company logo within that. So it's pretty cool to see the artworks that come out, and I know a few different Telegram groups are there that all about pushing that. So that's pretty cool. I think if you take another step back and you look at the situation, so we're waiting on the block producers. We're waiting on people to vote for the block producers, which is great. But I think, you know, the delayed activation of the EOS mainnet is definitely something that we should focus on. Wow. I mean, as we're talking about this, it's literally just been activated, right? Woohoo! We've been reloading the screen every second since we started the podcast. It literally has just been activated. So, do you want to break down, Oliver, since we're now live, who is going to be the block producers? Who are they? What they do? Where they're from? And yeah, let's kick it off via that.
So, number one spot, EOS Canada, and then we go through, right? So, EOS Authority, EOS DAC, EOS New York, EOS Cafe, EOS Canon, EOS Liquid, EOS 42, Bitfinex EOS, EOS Huobi, EOS Gravity, Cypherglass, Argentina EOS, EOS Korea, EOS Brazil, EOS Sweden, EOS Beijing, EOS Seoul, EOS Meet One, EOS Storebest, and EOS Asia. So those are your top 21 block producers, and they are now operating on an active chain, which is amazing. So obviously, as we were doing this podcast, we were looking at it at like 111, and the only thing I can think of that would have caused the vote to go up this much in such a short space of time is perhaps our friends over at Bitfinex, who are activating the chain and unleashing some of their tokens that they hold for their clients onto the mainnet. So that's really cool to see.
I think people really underestimated Bitfinex as well, because naturally the way they get paid as an exchange is by points of exchange. So if I was to buy into EOS, or I was to sell out of EOS, they would take a percentage of those tokens. Now, where do those tokens go? Well, you got it right. They go to Bitfinex's own wallet. So from all the exchanges that have happened over the year, from all the small fees that they charge, that goes into their own wallet, and they have the ability to use those EOS tokens to vote for themselves, because they are their own tokens. They're not using anyone else's. They rightfully earned those. I think it's super exciting that the community had to launch this project, and for that to happen, I think the amount of organization that it takes for each entity, and these entities, as you just read out, Oliver, are all over the world. You have EOS Authority, that's in London, EOS Canada, which is obviously in Canada, EOS Sweden, EOS Beijing, EOS Seoul. These guys are all around the world, and they all have to get their own communities to vote for them. So I think it's great for London, especially. We've got two entities, two block producers now from the UK and London that are going to be doing this, and I've met both those guys. So big shout out to EOS 42, big shout out to EOS Authority. And, well, Big Fnax are based in London, but the team live here. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll take that as well. There's three blog producers in London that have got through. I mean, our presence is felt now as it always is of SVK Crypto, our hometown, London, the United Kingdom. Well, listen, I mean, I don't think we have much now to talk about in regards to the block producers. So what happens now, Oliver? The mainnet's live. What's next? Like, what does this mean?
So now they're going to unlock transactions, so people actually start to be able to transact on the EOS blockchain. You'll be able to transfer tokens between each other. You'll obviously have to unstake your tokens from the staking portal to actually vote on these block producers. But once you've done that, you'll be able to send tokens to other people on the EOS mainnet. I fully expect now the various exchanges to start to unlocking those tokens and recognizing this chain as the main EOS chain. And obviously the ERC20 tokens now locked. You'll receive your EOS tokens on this new chain, and then everything's upside from there. It's dApps can be created on the chain, more users can come on board, and hopefully this network just starts to take off.
I want to say a big shout out to everyone that participated as a block producer and everyone listening and the EOS community as a whole. I think this is huge. This is now live. This took over a year to make this happen with the year-long ICO. EOS is live, EOS is here, and EOS is here to stay. So big thank you to the community. We look forward to meeting you all at our next event, which is this Tuesday. Myself and Oliver will definitely be speaking. Shane Kehoe, co-founder of SVK Crypto, will be speaking as well, along with Rong Chen from Elastos and their lead developer. So listen, that's a wrap. I got to bounce. Thank you so much for your time, your attention as always. Remember to stay tuned, and as always, remember to join our socials. Join us, hit us up on Telegram, SVK Crowd. Hit us up on Twitter at SVK_crypto, and hit us up on YouTube, www.youtube.com/SVK Crypto. And if you're really on your game, you'd email myself, cstory@SVK Crypto, or cstory@svkcrypto.com. Thank you so much. That's a wrap.
You've been listening to an SVK Crypto podcast original. Follow us on Twitter at SVK_crypto. Email us on cstory@svkcrypto.com. Leave us a message on our website, www.svkcrypto.com.
Welcome to the Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. Thank you so much for listening. Today, a report critical of the FBI. The Trump Foundation faces a lawsuit and a sweet comeback story. Plus, Chicago's plan for tunnels and the movie setting pre-sales records. All that and much, much more in less than 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. Today is Friday, June 15th. You ready? Let's do this. Well, the report is out, and it's about the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's private emails a couple years back. Remember that issue before the election? Clinton used a personal email server for political work. Well, the report says the FBI's director at the time, James Comey, was insubordinate and made some errors, and that he and others did not follow standard procedures with everything they did. And it said he even used his personal email for government business. But at the same time, the report says it was not necessarily political bias or anything improper that ultimately led to the investigation's outcome, that Clinton would not be charged. We're talking about the Inspector General's report here, basically the internal watchdog that holds the federal government accountable. James Comey, who, by the way, President Trump fired, wrote an op-ed for the New York Times saying he doesn't agree with all the things in the report, but still respects the Inspector General's office. The state of New York is suing President Trump's foundation with serious claims. The Washington Post reports the lawsuit says Trump illegally used the nonprofit's money, that the foundation's money was used to pay legal claims against Trump's businesses, to decorate his golf clubs, and to help support his 2016 campaign. The New York Attorney General wants to see, 1, the charity gone altogether, and 2, Trump should have to pay a few $1 million in penalties. President Trump said a big not true and says it's just an attempt by Democrats to damage him. His spokesman called it politics at its worst. There is a lot of controversy about the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy on immigration right now, specifically about families being separated at the border. The Trump administration has decided to prosecute asylum seekers who illegally cross the U.S.-Mexico border as a criminal case rather than just a civil issue that's less severe. And because there's a law that children can't be detained with their parents, reports say the families are being separated instead. Critics are calling it immoral. Even some faith leaders say it may be causing harm and trauma to the kids. But the White House is holding firm, calling it biblical to enforce the law. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions says the policy is meant to be a deterrent to stop people from trying to cross the border in the first place. He is back in the game. The lawmaker who was shot a year ago during practice for a charity baseball game involving members of Congress was back on the field, playing for that same annual event. Time reports House Majority Whip Steve Scalise even got the first out in the game and a standing ovation. All right, some other things to know today. There seems to be a salmonella outbreak happening linked to pre-cut melon. It's now been linked to 9 states, and the CDC and FDA are looking into it. CBS News reports the melon products come from a facility in Indianapolis before they're then sent to several large chain grocery stores. More than 60 people have gotten sick at this point. Elon Musk is teaming up with the city of Chicago in the hopes of making it faster for travelers to go from O'Hare Airport to the middle of the city. The plan? High-speed rail and tunnels. The Boring Company won the bid for the new form of transportation. TechCrunch reports the proposal includes a 16-passenger self-driving vehicle that can take passengers up to 100 miles per hour. So about 12 minutes between the airport and downtown. Some are skeptical about this. Musk is trying to do the tunnel thing in other cities too, like Los Angeles and D.C., but he hasn't actually completed one yet. A new study says more animals are becoming nocturnal so they can avoid us. Even animals that usually don't sleep during the day are now sleeping more during the day so they can be up moving around when we, the humans, are not around. The lead author of the study says this could have some consequences since it will affect things like hunting habits. On the flip side, the animals who are okay with humans may be using us for their benefit to avoid their predators who don't want to come close. Will you be seeing a movie this weekend? The movie ticket site Fandango says Incredibles 2 sold more tickets in pre-sales than any other animated movie. It beat out the last record holder for the site, Finding Dory. Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2 opens in theaters today. It's expected to bring in big bucks this weekend, between $125 million and $140 million. Variety reports the movie picks up right where the original film left off. And that's it. You are all caught up. Before you go, I want to try something new. I want to test out a new listener call-in line. So if you get value out of the newsworthy, leave me a message and let me know. Call 812-785-NEWS. That's 812-785-NEWS and leave a little testimonial. I may play it right here on the air. Tell me what you love about the newsworthy or ask a question about a news topic and it may become a 3-Question Thursday interview segment. Again, the number is 812-785-NEWS. Thanks so much again for being here and listening. You can always read more about any of the news stories that caught your attention today at thenewsworthy.com. Just click episodes and find today's date. The Newsworthy is ready for you every day, Monday through Friday by 4 in the morning Eastern Time. So we'll be back with more news on Monday. Have a great weekend.
From CBC News, it's The World This Hour. I'm Joe Cummings. The Supreme Court of Canada rules this morning on whether a private Christian university in British Columbia can open a law school. Trinity Western University has been refused accreditation by BC's Law Society because of its acceptance rules. Kathleen Harris has more.
Trinity Western University is a private, evangelical Christian institution in Langley, BC. It wants to add a law school. But to get into this university, students must sign what's called a community covenant that says they'll abstain from sex outside of a heterosexual marriage. The Law Societies of BC and Ontario argued that this requirement discriminates against LGBT people and refused to accredit the school. Trinity Western argues it has the right to decide the criteria for its students. Earl Phillips is the proposed law school's executive director.
The community covenant reflects the traditional Christian values that this community of faith wishes to live by. And that's why the issue is whether diversity allows for that.
The Supreme Court will determine if the Law Societies have the right to refuse Trinity Western's accreditation. British Columbia's Ministry of Advanced Education withdrew its original approval of the law school, pending the outcome of the legal proceedings. Kathleen Harris, CBC News, Ottawa.
It's been a long night of marathon voting in the House of Commons.
All those in favor of the motion will please say yay.
Yay! That's an overnight filibuster organized by the opposition Conservatives. It's aimed at forcing the Trudeau government to release a cost analysis of its carbon tax plan. At the same time, the voting marathon has further delayed passage of the government's marijuana legalization bill. The government's response to Senate amendments to Bill C-45 was to be debated last night, but now that vote, will be pushed to next week. 2 girls, aged 5 and 9, are recovering in hospital after a shooting yesterday in a Toronto playground. Linda Ward has the details.
The 2 girls were doing what most kids would be doing on a sunny afternoon. It was around 5 yesterday afternoon when they were playing in a playground near their home when they were shot. The 5-year-old was hit in the abdomen, the 9-year-old in the ankle. They were rushed to hospital for surgery and are now stable. There were 11 children in the playground at the time and 7 shots were fired. The man the gunman was aiming for took off, leaving the children there bleeding. Police Chief Mark Saunders.
Obviously, these 2 young girls are not the intended targets. Some cowards came into this neighborhood and opened fire into a playground. This act is despicable.
Now, police say the gunman approached on foot, fired, and fled. Now, police are looking for 2 men, the gunman and the driver of the black Nissan Versa that fled the scene. Linda Ward, CBC News, Toronto.
The CRTC is launching a public inquiry into the sales tactics common within Canada's telecommunication industry. It follows an investigation by CBC's Go Public unit. Here's Erica Johnson.
Federal Minister Navdeep Bains, who oversees the telecoms, says the government heard from hundreds of Canadians.
Well, the message is very clear. Canadians are concerned. We've heard them loud and clear, and we're taking action.
Taking action by ordering the federal telecom regulator, the CRTC, to conduct a public inquiry into how major providers sell services such as TV, internet, home phone, and wireless service. Already a handful of telecom employees from Bell and Rogers have contacted Go Public to ask how they can participate, whether they'll be protected from retaliation if they speak out. Earlier this year, the CRTC rejected calls for a public inquiry from groups like the Public Interest Advocacy Centre. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canadians are well known and celebrated for apologizing, but today it's Americans who are the ones saying sorry. A long list of Americans have written letters to the editors of 20 Canadian newspapers apologizing for U.S. President Trump's recent comments about Canada and Prime Minister Trudeau. One California man says if it ever came to a vote, a lot of Americans would be happy to switch leaders. And that is The World This Hour. I'm Joe Cummings.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Power surge in the Bronx. I'm Rob Bushka. The Yankees prove once again they can beat you in many different ways.
Swung on, there it goes. Deep left field, that ball is high. It is far. It is gone. It's a 3-run home run to give the Yankees the lead. It's Glaber Day. And like a good Glaber, Torres is there. He hits a mighty 3-run home run in the left field seats.
Yankees radio on the call. New York beat Tampa Bay 4-3 to open a 4-game weekend set by scoring all 4 in the 5th inning with 2 long balls. Torres a 3-run blast, and Aaron Hicks had a solo shot. It's Torres' 13th of the year in just 45 games played. Aroldis Chapman nailed down his 19th save of the year. Yankees needed the win to keep pace with the Red Sox, who were still a game in front after edging Seattle 2-1 out west. Giants avoided a 4-game sweep in Miami with a 6-3 win in 16 innings. Snakes doubled up the Mets 6-3. Goldie with his 13th. Phillies pummeled the Rockies. Tigers snuck by the Twins. The Tribe beat the White Sox, while the Astros beat the A's behind Justin Verlander. He's 9-2 with an earning of 161. Atlanta, they topped the Padres 4-2. Golf's second major of the U.S. Open from Shinnecock Hills in Southampton finds a 4-way tie after round 1. Dustin Johnson and Jason Duffner are co-leaders at just 1 under. Bubba and Lefty in danger of missing the cut at +7. So is Tiger and Spieth +8. Woods tees off just after 8 a.m. Eastern with Dustin Johnson. NFL news, the Texans are shaping up nicely. Quarterback Deshaun Watson is healing, and they've now inked linebacker Bernardrick McKinney to a $50 million extension. Great news, there's a quick way you could save money. Switch to Geico. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. You're listening to NBC Sports Radio and NBCSportsRadio.com.